let's start with the day 2. Fine. And over here, I'll create a new Java project, day 2. Right. In this, I will add all the jar files and all everything for Selenium. Right. Yesterday, I told you how you can add the jars. Fine. Okay. Now, talking about object-oriented programming, what objects are, how they are used in Selenium, and what are the various concepts and features of object-oriented programming. Let me tell you practically. For example, I'll make a new class, a very simple class like a class known as person. Okay. So what are the properties of a person? Like the properties are, say, the name of the person, int age of the person. These are the various properties for a person. Right? You can add many more, but I've just put 2. Right? And suppose if I create a new class known as, say, temp.java. In this temp.java, what I can do is I can create the object of the class person. Fine. I can write over here new person. This is known as object creation. You write new and the name of the class. Now, what happens when you create the object of the person class? Okay, technically what happens is that in the memory, an object is formed. It will have all the properties of the class, that is name, age. Okay, right. But you cannot access this object right now. It's just an object in the memory with 2 properties, name and age. If you create 3 such objects, then in the memory, 3 such objects will be created. Each object will have the property name and age. But you cannot access these objects. To access these objects, you need to create object references. Okay, what do you mean by object references? You need to write like this, say person P1 equals to new person. Sorry, person P2 and person P3. You need to write like this. So what happens is that in the memory, P1 points towards the first object. Okay. P2 is the reference which points towards second object, and P3 is the reference which points towards the third object. So P1, P2 and P3 are not objects. These are the references pointing towards the objects. With them you can change the state of the objects. Okay, right? You can write over here, say P1 dot name is A and P2 dot name is B and P3 dot name is C. So every object can be resolved to a different name. Out here, I have kept the name for P1 as A, this is P2 as B and P3 as C. Similarly, you can define the age as well. By writing dot over here, you can access the various features of the person class. Okay, so if I print over here system.out.println P1 dot name, p2.name and p3.name, and if I run it, it will print ABC. Now objects are different and object references are different. This is the object and this is the object reference pointing towards it. If I write over here person p4 equals to null, what does this mean? This means that p4 is not pointing towards any object. Or if I write over here just new person, that means this object has got no reference. You cannot access it. Okay, probably on the next line I can make p4 point towards this. Okay, it's completely your choice. Fine. Okay, now if I write over here p2 equals to p1, I initiated p1, p2, p3. Okay, right. These were the three objects. Hold on. P1 was pointing towards A, P2 was B, and P3 was C. If I write over here in the code P2 equals to P1, that means, what does that mean? If, hold on, let me tell you practically. This means that P2 will start pointing towards where P1 is pointing. So P2 will be removed from here. Okay. And P2 will start pointing towards A. So P1 and P2 will point towards the same object. If I write over here system.out.println all the three names again with a with a demarcation boundary. Okay, I'll put a demarcating line in between, and when I run this program, it prints, see, AAC. P1 and P2 point towards the same object. Okay, right? So object references can change from one object to another. Object will remain in the memory, but you can point references from one object to another, and one object can have multiple references, like P2 and P1 are two references to the first object. Okay, right. And if I write over here now P2 dot name is Z, so what this will do? This will rename this to Z. So when I print over here, if I print P1.name, P2.name, P3.name again, for P1 and P2, it will print Z as the name. Okay, for P1 and P2, it's going to print the name as Z only. Alright. So I hope you understood this concept of object and object references. I hope you got this. Right. If you have any questions, if somebody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Right. Now let's concentrate on two things. Okay, that is what is non-static and what is static in Java. Because this is the place where most of the people, they make a mistake. They don't know the difference, and especially when you're working with Selenium, you're making frameworks and all, and you're building projects. you literally mess up with the project if you don't know what these things do and what is the basic concept of static. Okay, right. So there's a question being asked for p1.name. What is the data type of name? You have declared the variable anywhere. Well, I have declared p1 inside the person class name. Similarly, you can access the age as well. So this is the person class. It's just got two variables, name and age. Okay. In temp.java, I have created objects of this class, and every object I can give a different value. Right. And I can point the references of objects to each other. Okay. Right. Now, technically, this variable is known as non-static variable, global variable. Okay, technically, this is also known as non-static global variable. Okay, then you have got public void, say a function. Okay, for example, public void get name. Okay, so this function will just print the name. Okay, look, I am creating the variables and all in this class, and in the other class, I am just creating the objects of that class. Okay, this is the major motive I want to tell you, that from the other classes also you can create the object of a certain class. Okay, so these two variables, technically they are known as non-static global variables. This function is known as non-static function. All the non-static things, they are the part of the object. Okay, right? You will have, say, name, you have the name age, then you will have the function. Okay, get name function would be there inside every object. Okay, the get name function will be the part of every object out here. So you can call over here, say p1 dot get name or p2 dot get name or p3 dot get name. So depending on which object reference is calling the get name function, it will print the name of that particular reference. If p1 is calling get name, it will print the name of p1 over here. Okay, right? So if I run it, in the end you will see it's printing the same output. Okay, right. So this is how, right? This is how uh, it works. This is how you can create the objects of a particular class, and you can call the functions and all everything. Okay, right. So just a minute, yeah, just a minute. Right, fine. Now what is static? Now every person has got, say, two eyes. Right, if I write over here int eyes, then we know that everybody has got two eyes. So for every object which I have created, okay, I can, if I write over here p1 dot eyes equals to 2, p2 dot eyes are also 2, p3 dot eyes are also 2. Okay, right. So Does this make sense? Do you think, guys, does this make sense? Does this make sense? Well, you cannot just keep on giving the same value to every object. P1.is are 2, P2.is are 2. Right? It will not actually be good. Okay. So better is that you make i's static. Static is something which is common for all the objects. Okay. Right. What happens is that if you have static, then static resides somewhere over here in the memory, and all the objects they can have the static stuff. Okay, but it is not a part of the object, right? You can access the static variable without the object as well. I can write over here simple person dot i's equals to 2. So all the objects will have 2 i's. Static properties can be called directly with the name of the class. Okay, right. Static properties, they can be accessed directly with the name of the class. Okay, fine. So the basic thing is whatever is common for all the objects, you make it static. Right. So you will not have to initialize it in every object. Okay. Right. Fine. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll come over to Selenium. Right. And I'll tell you how Selenium can be used. I'll create a new class. Okay. And I'll write over here Selenium Basics. Look, guys, the meeting for the trial classes, it's restricted to 25 people. Okay, so the people who have already paid for this course, right, I request them to join a little early during the trial classes. Okay, we open the doors 45 minutes before the classes start for the people who have paid. For the rest of them, you can join later. We take maximum 24 people in a batch. Around 17 people have paid for it. So around 7 seats are left. Okay, so Selenium Basics, right, over here, let me go to the documentation of Selenium. Okay, let me go to the website seleniumhq.org and go to the downloads section. Right, over here you will see Java doc. Okay, you open this Java doc and these are all the classes which are there in Selenium. You don't need to remember all of them. Even I don't remember. Okay, when we need it, we use it. That's what you need to have the knack to understand the functions of these classes. Okay, right. So, right now there are many classes. The most famous one for Firefox, for working with Firefox, many of you must be knowing. This is Firefox driver. This class. Right. So there are various driver classes. For example, Firefox driver. I'll create the object of Firefox driver. Okay, say fd equals to new Firefox driver. Okay, when you run the code, you will see that a blank Firefox will open up. Okay, right? A blank Firefox window opens up. Right, and this you can work on this blank Firefox window. You can call various functions which are there in the Firefox driver class. If I write fd dot, you will see lot of functions which can help us work with Firefox. For example, fd.get to the URL http, say in any website, say bbc.com. So when you run it, you'll see that a Firefox will open up and it will load the website bbc.com. Right. So you will see that it loads up. Similarly, there are other driver classes representing different browsers. For example, I'll tell you from the documentation, just a minute. These are the various driver classes for different browsers: Chrome driver, Edge driver, Event Firing driver, Firefox driver, okay, Safari driver, right, Internet Explorer driver. Okay, so I'll talk about them. Let's talk about Chrome driver. Chrome driver helps us to run the code on Chrome. Okay, to run the script on Chrome. If I can create the object of Chrome driver like this, and I can write Chrome driver dot get to http say yahoo.com. So when you run it, all of you will get an error, okay? Because for Chrome driver, you cannot just directly run it, right? From the Selenium website, okay, go to seleniumhq.org. You need to download Chrome driver.exe file. Okay, it's a third-party driver, Chrome driver, right? You click on this link. I'll tell you what to do. You click on this link, then you click on this 2.21 which is written over here, and again click on this link 2.21 and you will be taken to this page. Depending on your operating system, download the zip file. I have got a 64-bit OS. I can download the 32-bit. It's not a problem. Okay, so you can download this. I already have it on my machine. Okay, you will get this file chrome driver.exe. Don't try to run this. Okay, just keep it in your PC at a certain location. Note the location, right? And then write in the code system.set property WebDriver dot chrome dot driver and give the location of chrome driver.exe. Sorry. So what happens is basically this exe is given by the people who made Chrome driver. You need to keep it in the path firstly. Secondly, don't try to run this exe. Thirdly, make sure Chrome is installed on your machine, right? And fourthly, the most important thing, webdriver.chrome.driver. This has to be in lowercase. Sometimes people keep W capital over here or something. It doesn't work. This has to be in lowercase. Right. System is an internal class in Java, and set property is a static function inside that class. If you move mouse over set property, you will get the declaration of the function. This is a static function. Okay, so you can call system.setProperty and you can set the system property. All right. Fine. Okay. Now, if you run this code, this will work perfectly fine on Chrome. It will launch Chrome and it will take you to Yahoo. Right? Fine. Similarly, you have got for you have got Internet Explorer driver. You create the object for that. Okay. You can write I.get http yahoo.com. And when you run it for I also, you will get an error. For I also, you need to download an exe from the Selenium website. Okay, go to the download section. Right, you will get the exe for 32-bit I or 64-bit I. It is not OS, but the bits in your I, 32-bit I or 64-bit I. You download the exe. Okay, I already have it downloaded. iDriverServer.exe. Again, if it's similar to Chrome, you don't need to actually run it or something, right? So you need to write system.setProperty WebDriver.i.driver and the path of the exe. So when you run it, you will see that I will open. This is initial start page for WebDriver would be written and it will go to yahoo.com. Okay, right. So the thing is, for Chrome and I, you need to download the exe. And moreover, for I, there are few settings which you need to be careful of. Okay, the first one being that under view, zoom, the zoom should be 100%. If it is not 100%, you will get an error. Okay, secondly, right, you need to go to tools. If it doesn't work, just check your tool internet options. Go to security, right? And if it is not working, then for all the 4 sections over here, internet, local internet, trusted sites and restricted sites, make sure this leveler is at the same level for all the 4 sections. Okay, in case if it is not working, if your I is not working with Selenium, if it gives you some error. Right. So these are the major drivers, IE, Firefox, Chrome. Apart from that, there are other driver classes. For example, Edge driver is for Edge. Safari driver is for Safari. It is very unstable. Things, they don't work in Safari driver. It's unstable. It's not working properly. I also know that it's got issues. Right. Similarly, Opera driver is also unstable. It's got a lot of issues. Remote WebDriver is for GRID. You use remote WebDriver to run your tests parallelly and all. Okay. And HTML unit driver. I'll tell you about this driver. I'll talk about remote WebDriver later on when we'll do GRID. Okay. I'll talk about HTML unit driver. I'll create the objects of HTML unit driver and then write over here driver.get to the URL http say gmail.com and then print driver.getTitle. GetTitle function prints the title of Gmail. If I run this code, okay, if I run this code, you will see that no browser will open. And the title of Gmail is also printed. If I write say bbc.com and if I run it, you will see that again no browser will open and in the output you will have the title of BBC printed. This driver is a silent driver. It works without opening the browser. It is very fast as compared to the other drivers. Like for example, certain times you have to run your program or run your script on a Unix box where there is no UI, where there is no browser installed on your PC. So you can use HTML unit driver. It works without opening the browser and it's very fast. Okay. Right. So similarly, you have got many other drivers like iDriver is there. I talked about Firefox driver, event firing WebDriver. This is used for complex user gestures like a moving mouse and all those things. Okay. Earlier we used to have Android driver and iOS driver as well in Selenium for Android and iOS, but now these drivers have been removed because a new tool which is built on top of Selenium, Appium, its name is Appium, has come up. It is for mobile automation, right? So all those mobile handlers and mobile commands, everything has been shifted to that tool. Sorry. Right. So anybody with any questions or doubts? Any questions or any doubts from anyone? Yeah.
Ashish, when there is no WebDriver for Chrome or IE is installed, what kind of error do I get? The reason I want to know is...
I cannot understand your question.
Okay, so I do not have a WebDriver for Chrome and I run it, right? So I want to understand the error that I get if it is with my code, because you're saying the WebDriver web should be capitalized, right? So I want to understand if it is the install problem or my code problem. How do I know?
Look, if you write capital W over here, that's what you want trying to say, right?
Yeah.
If I run it, you'll get an error. Java is a case sensitive language. You have to be very careful. Capital upper and lower case in Java, it matters a lot. So you have to be careful, otherwise you'll end up wasting a lot of your time. That's what people do, and that's where they probably get stuck at times. Okay?
Okay.
Regarding the IE driver, if it's not installed, you said that we'll have to go to the tools and options and ensure that the security levels is the same across all four.
Yeah.
Limitation?
Pardon?
Is that a limitation?
It's not a limitation. This is how IE works.
Right, but
okay,
it's not always. I mean, from a company, from a business point of view, due to a lot of security reasons.
Yeah, you can say it's a limitation, but that's how IE works with Selenium.
Okay.
You have no other way around. You have to. It happens. You have to ask a system administrator or someone to fix it for you.
That's why I wanted to check if that was a limitation.
Yeah. So what is the difference between P2 equals to P1 and P1 equals to P2? Okay. The question being asked is, if I write over here P2 equals to P1, if I write P1 equals to P2, how they are different? Look, if I write int I equals to 100, what does this mean? You are putting 100 into I. So similarly, when you are writing P2 equals to P1, you are saying that you are putting P1 into P2. Basically, you are making sure that P2 will point towards the place where P1 is pointing. Okay, the value of P1, the object to which P1 is pointing, P2 will also point to that. Okay, right? So this is the thing. So anybody having any other question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
The original class that you create is always static, And in one of the videos that you said that only static can get the static functions and non-static get the non-static functions.
Yeah.
Then how come the original main, the first one, it's always static, and you said it has to get, you do it because of the control. That's how Java is made.
Yeah.
How come we access the non-static functions from this static one? Because you said static will only get the static one.
These are, look, the thing is, I'll tell you. Okay, what she is asking, I'll tell everyone. Okay, so I'll make a new class known as, say, temp2. Okay, a class can have static or non. This is main function is static. Okay, right. Suppose I make a function in main known as public void ABC, and I try to call the ABC function from the main function. I will get an error, because in Java there is a rule that static functions can only access static stuff. Okay, if ABC is non-static, you cannot call it directly. But yes, I can create the object of temp2 class, and I can call it with the object. Okay, so that's what I have done over here in temp.java. For the person class, I have created the object, and then I am calling the non-static stuff and non-static functions. You got my point?
For every non-static functions, you cannot call directly.
No, you have to, because non-static is always the part of the object.
Okay, got it.
Okay, for example, the classes over here, Firefox driver, Chrome driver, IE driver, if you have to access their functions, you have to create the objects of those functions, and only then you can access them.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
One more question. Which browser is stable for Selenium?
Firefox, Chrome are stable. IE is also stable. Sometimes it gives issues. These are the three major browsers.
And one more thing, what is a cross-browser compatibility? How can we
browser compatibility? Okay, cross-browser compatibility. It means that your code, if you are writing, the same code works on all the browsers. That's what it means. It basically depends on the website as well, and the way you have written your script as well. Okay, it should not be that in Selenium that you are writing different script for different browsers, until or unless the application is made in such a way that it behaves differently in different browsers. But most of the times it should not be there. The compatibility of the script should be there with all the browsers. Okay, this is known as cross-browser compatibility. Anybody having any questions? Right. Now the thing is, I told you that there are different drivers. There is a driver for Chrome, there is a driver for HTML unit driver, IE, Firefox. So will you have to learn these drivers separately? And as I was telling, your script should run on all the browsers. So will you be writing a different script for different browsers? Okay, no, answer for that is no. Right, you don't have to learn each and every driver separately and the functions in each and every driver. Okay, so the concept of interfaces, right? I have not covered constructor. I'll cover them as we proceed. I'm marking this in red. Okay, the concept of interface, it comes into the play. All right. Now interfaces, they define how the system is supposed to be made in Java. Okay, interfaces, it's a part of object-oriented programming. Fine. So I'll talk about interfaces in tomorrow's class. Right. Actually, this constructor I've written over here, but I actually tell it somewhere in the day 5. Okay, because these constructors are needed in day 5, so I cover them in day 5. Okay. So yeah, once you define static, it is same for everyone. Okay, if I write person.eyes too, so all the objects will have 2 eyes. Fine.